How are y'all doing?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm doing. I should use the mic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thanks, Evan, for the opportunity to consider what it might mean to be influenced. Like, I've been thinking about how weird it is to say that we're under influence. Since influence is, strictly speaking, something that comes inside you, right? It's a Latin word, influere, to flow in. So maybe the under means that there's such a total flowing in that our self, whatever that is, cowers in the body beneath what rushes in. So tonight I'm going to be talking about Sextus Propertius, an ancient Roman poet who lived during the Roman Revolution and died in 15 BCE. Am I influenced by him? I don't know. Like, I've been reading Roman poetry for 15 years, and it wasn't until just this spring that I read the 4 books of Propertius's elegies. And there are a lot of terrific poems in those books. And I don't want to overstate the case, but I did find some similarities between Propertius's writing and my own. Like, he loves naked bodies, for instance, and hates money. And this makes him basically good. He writes all these poems for his girlfriend. He calls her Cynthia. They're as naughty as you think proper revolutionary Roman poems would be, but they're not just about fucking. They're also about the power of love to affect the lover, the torment and ecstasy that inflects songs from Propertius to Frank Ocean. Like when Frank Ocean sings,
Do it.
unrequited love to me is nothing but a one-man cult. But is liking his poems, even liking them a lot, the same thing as being influenced? Another feature of influence, which suggests itself to me, is that because we use the word influence metaphorically, I mean, there's not like an actual inflowing of material substance into the body. We can only register that an influence is flowed in by an effluence. That is, something flows out. And in this scenario I'm describing, it sounds a lot like translation, which is reading writing which precedes a writing which proceeds. So perhaps the only way to prove whether or not I've been influenced by Propertius is to translate him. So I did. I translated this poem. It's, well, yeah, whatever. Like, all his poems just have numbers. Right? So I'll tell you and you'll be like, great. Because I have my copy of Propertius right here. So oh, I am so happy. Bright night was all for me. Sweet couch where we fucked. Before that we talked. The lamp was on. Then it was off. It got rowdy. She didn't have a shirt on. And then she did. And then she didn't. I fell asleep and woke up with her tongue on my eyeball. She was like, "Good morning, lazy." All night we switched positions. The way our lips lingered on each other's was epic. It was longer than Lawrence of Arabia. It was longer than the colonial urges of hegemonic nation states. If you're gonna fuck, you have to leave the lights on. Because we're just about to die. And as they say in the Psalms, the dead do not sing praises to the Lord. And as they do not say in the Psalms, the dead don't get to fuck the way we fuck when Buffy and Spike fuck on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That is just the exception that proves the rule. I wish we were a necklace. I wish we were humping pigeons on a gross gate by Bart. I wish we were rivers meeting each other, influencing each other. If we could be all these, the war would stop, the conquest would stop, haircuts too would stop, and laundry, who cares? Our dirt would be the grime of communist sex finally. God, take off your fucking shirt. Dead flowers come back to life. The lights are on. The light is life. Okay, so the idea that sex and war are mutually exclusive is a key feature of Propertius's text, and one that Ezra Pound captured beautifully in his homage to Sextus Propertius, which he wrote around 1917. Do you guys know this poem? So it's a very artfully arranged series of translations of Propertius, although like haters made Pound stop calling them translations. And a good example is in the very beginning of Pound's text. Like he translates this Propertius poem, which is like a list of things that Propertius doesn't have. He's like, I don't have a house. I don't have an orchard. Whatever. And then so Pound like adds to this list. And it's like, my cellar does not date from Numa Pompilius, nor bristle with wine jars, nor is it equipped with a Frigidaire. You know. And so these first two are reasonable lines of Propertius, but the third is perverse and like funny. But actually none of these lines are in Propertius' poem. Pound disobeys Propertius' text, I guess, but he also disobeys a sentence of fidelity on translation, the stateliness assumed by readers of Latin poetry, the invisibility of the translator. It feels so weird reading Ezra Pound. He ends up so awful that it's easy to forget that there was like a sort of good Pound at one point, like the Pound of the teens, where he hangs out with Yeats in some fucked up field in Ireland. He was so hot. His haircut was so extraordinary. He had like that Scorpio gaze that bears in only to find it has already decided upon you, totally. And you know he was probably great in bed, where Scorpios gather all that darkness in the service of someone's pleasure, their own and others. So I'm going to temporarily suspend my knowledge of Pound's final and comprehensive shittiness to simply like him for a year or two in the late teens. But of course, there was something apropos about his translating Propertius in 1917. The martial environment of the First World War made demands on artists of the time to contend with the extremes of spectacular violence, nationalism, polemical art. Sound familiar? Reading Homage for the first time, after reading Propertius for the first time, I felt like retroactively influenced by these works. Like influenced by how Propertius thinks of poetry in wartime. When he was writing his poems, across town Virgil was writing the Aeneid, a long poem which literally applies the Iliad to Rome's current political regime. And then Propertius is like, my girlfriend and I having sex is like the same as colonial conquest. So this is a literal translation of the first 16 lines of his poem is called 2.1. Good title, right? You ask me how my love poems get written and how I write them so they're softer than apricot pubes. It's not the muse or any kind of god singing through me. It's just my genius girlfriend. If she burns up the sidewalk in Chanel, I write a whole book, Chanel. If her hair strays across her forehead, I write a poem called Bangs. If she plays piano, I go wild at how easy and sweetly she plays. If she lowers her little eyes to nap, I think of like 1,000 lines of poetry. If we're naked and her dress tears and we start to fuck, then I swear to God, we are making a long Iliad. What she does, whatever she says, we make this great history out of nothing. A great history out of nothing. The poem detours after this. Propertius spends like dozens of lines saying, if only he had more skill as a poet, he'd write of battle, the glory of war and conquest. But that is making a history out of something. And what we want to do, who love and hate force, is continue to make our poems out of nothing. To treat our nothingness as if it were everything. To transform what is obviously nothing into a great history of everything, as if it were everything, which just makes us ordinary. In the way that religious ecstasy is rare, but practical devotion daily is an apology text. We want to continue to call our everyday experiences of love and loss epic, historical, religious, and still be nothing. When our nothing goes ablout, downgrades, brings about an interior midnight during an interior morning, when we make an Iliad out of our pillow talk, when we frame our very ordinary formations of love as historically significant events, then we're making great histories out of nothing, cults out of our love, even in the face of death. And so here's this last translation. Cynthia, I'm not afraid of waking up in hell, or mad at life that my limbs will smolder. I'm only afraid you won't show up at my door. That idea is worse than death. Ecological catastrophe, imploding Earth. It's not as bad as losing you tonight. Hell won't be so bad. All the poets I love on Earth will be there. The whole thing will be us, in fact, crying in a bunch of daiquiris, long readings, orgies after. We'll be broke just like here, and everyone will know I'm still your man. When sketchy flirts come and try to woo, I'll remember you. Not even the babes enslaved by argives who actually prefer to be in hell with poets. None of them are hotter to me than you. Our love is a cum-drenched papal bowl. I want you to live to be old, but also I want you to hurry here to hell. I'm waiting for you with sunglasses and Advil. And I'm thinking about you, oh no, no. I've been thinking about you, oh no, no, no. I've been thinking about you, do you think about me too? Do ya, do ya? Thanks for listening.